Hello everyone, this is Armstrong Williams on the right side. Don't curse, speak English. Virtuous society. I dare you to listen.
Hey, turn it up, hey. Get on the right side.
Elevate your mind. I'm Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Yo, man, it's your boy K.O. And you're tuned into the most conservative of our brothers.
The Armstrong Williams Show. Please give me a break. Grow up. Hello everyone and welcome to a very special edition of the Armstrong Williams Show. And thank you so much for joining us for this broadcast. Obviously, this is a pre-record, and the show will be aired and announced in a location near you very soon. This is a very interesting topic today. You know, listen, we must pre-record and broadcast live probably, 22 different shows every week on radio. That does not even include the television and definitely doesn't include the columns and the blogs that we post. And, you know, it's like being in a laboratory. You're always learning about how people think, how they come to their conclusions, and just what separates us. It's our philosophy, it's our belief system, and what really has shaped us. Let me welcome Dr. Carl Francis Ellis Jr. back to the show. You know, he is an author, lecturer, teacher, and theological anthropologist. Dr. Ellis, welcome back to the broadcast.
Hey, good to be back, Armstrong.
And joining us for the first time, Dr. Ebony Utley, who is an expert in popular culture, race, and romantic relationships. That's a new one for me. His critically acclaimed book, Rap and Religion, what an interesting combination. Understanding the Gangster's God addresses all of the above by closely examining the juxtaposition and seeing hypocrisy of references to God within rap music. Utley asserts that religion has always been part of the urban environments that birthed rap music, and she shows exactly how a God-sanctioned gangster identity can be empowering. Dr. Utley, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I just need you to speak up for us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Very good. You know, I want to start with how a God-sanctioned gangster identity can be empowering. So let's start there.
Absolutely. I argue in the book that when young people are facing declining economic opportunities, they look for ways to feel more empowered, to feel less vulnerable, to feel more invincible. And part of what does that for them is adopting a gangsta persona. So I argue that the gangsta is not a real person, but it's a persona that's adapted by these youth that are looking for ways to be stronger in their everyday lives. They also affiliate themselves with God because God is another one of those invincible, invulnerable personas that they can appropriate to feel more powerful. So when it looks like your environment is falling apart around you, you can feel stronger and more empowered by adopting a gangster persona and appropriating God characteristics.
Well, is that any different than people in the pulpit adopting a godlike persona, or people of faith adopting a godlike persona?
It's actually very similar, and you'll find many rappers who do adopt the preacher persona on their way to adopting a God persona. So yes, absolutely.
Dr. Ellis, what do you think of that comparison?
Well, I think Dr. Utley has a good point here. Is that the fact that young men and women in the hood feel powerless. That's been a search for empowerment has been at the very heart of the African American experience from day one, and it still is. It's part of one of those what I call the core cultural concerns that we have. It's kind of like a group of cultural concerns, empowerment.
But how do you
to dignity, identity, and significance?
Well, Dr. Utley, how do you adopt a God-sanctioned persona if it's not sanctioned with those godly and biblical principles, as ministers try their best to do in the pulpit on Sundays?
Adopting a God persona doesn't necessarily have to be religious. It means that you are in charge of your own destiny. It means that you can take control of your reality. It means that you're not going to let other people's impressions of you hurt your self-esteem or challenge your status. So I argue in the book that even though it's titled Rap and Religion, that God doesn't have to be tied to a particular religious faith. So God isn't always Allah. God isn't always the Christian God. It's this idea of being very powerful in a world that makes you want to feel less powerful.
But doesn't that also include to sort of define good as whatever God sanctioned or did, no matter how Christians claims that what God may be and whatever perspective or perception you may have of God?
Well, God is complex, and God is also socially constructed. So there are ideas of God that are all good, but there are also ideas of God that are more nuanced. Sometimes God does good for certain groups of people, but not good for other groups of people, depending on the context. Sometimes God is jealous, sometimes God is vengeful. So when the rappers adopt a God personality, they're adopting all of these complex personas that come with these different ideas that different people have of God.
I did not know that God treated different groups differently, Dr. Ellis.
Well, it's interesting that, as a matter of fact, Dr. Utley, I was very fascinated with the excerpt and some of the stuff I read about you and all that. We're kind of in the same ballpark here in a lot of ways. But this whole idea of God being socially constructed, I mean, I would look at it this way, that God is God. He is there. Everybody knows, everybody is affected by God. And what the rappers are doing, what these gangsters are doing, they're crying out, they're looking for God. And now, if God is just socially constructed, then he's limited by human beings and what they can imagine. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like if God is just socially constructed, then it ultimately becomes another version of crack cocaine in a sense. You know, if God is imaginary, I mean, God is real. If He's real, then let's seek Him and let's see what He has to say. But if He is not, then it seems to me that no matter what positive things religion can do for us, whatever, if we're dealing with an imaginary God, there is no God, there is no truth, and everything is meaningless. We might as well be nihilists as far as that goes. But again, I think what I hear in the rappers is crying out. Like, for example, a lot of this macho stuff that I hear. These guys are crying out for manhood. They really are seeking. They're trying to figure out what does it mean to be a man, and so many of these guys don't have access to, like their fathers are gone or whatever, and so they grab for the next best thing. And so what I hear in my dealings with some of these rappers, I really sense a crying out for the true and living God, and I have. It is great to be able to share with them and to help them to understand that their struggles and their hurts and their concerns are very, very legitimate, and we can point them in the right direction.
Dr. Utley?
I wouldn't go as far as to say that God is imaginary, but God is limited to our imaginations. Depending upon our life experiences, we have different ideas of God. So, yes, I agree. There are a lot of rappers that are calling out to a God that can help them find their manhood in terms of looking for a God the Father. They're looking for a God that will be a father figure for them. There are other rappers that are looking for a God that will be an avenger for them, a God that will have their back when they go out to get justice in the world. There are other rappers that are looking for a God that's like a big homie, just like a friend that they can hang out with. Tupac and the Outlaws rap about a black Jesus who smokes and hurts and drinks just like they do. So that's what I mean about God being socially constructed. It depends on where you are in life and what you need, the kind of God that you'll create to meet those needs. I mean, even if we
but you can't create
that's
God.
My point. That's my point. If
you
God
can't create Him.
If God is limited by human beings, then He's no God at all, and it all becomes an illusion. See, if God is real, then we should seek Him, and if He is, and as a matter of fact, when I hear all this stuff, I mean, they're crying out that the God of the Bible fits the bill completely. I mean, just like, for example, I study Islam a lot too, and this whole idea of God down here as opposed to God out there, the whole idea of God down here is an alien concept to Islam. Allah is unknowable, He's not, he's totally other, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the God of the Bible is very accessible and all the rest of that. But if he is limited by human imagination, then he's no God at all. It's just nothing but another illusion.
I'll tell you why this concerns me. And certainly I am not close to being some theologian, but I've read a lot of books in my life. I remember back the liberalization in Asia and the theistic anomaly. I mean, there were 5 of the 7 periods of interaction between Christians and Chinese art. The Japanese culture have been marked by 2 distinct but interrelated phenomena, and that is there's an attempt on the part of a number of gifted Eastern Asians to relate the Christian God to the ancient and politically charged rites of their loyalty to the Ten. And then there's a strongly rivalizing influence of the resulting Christian Confucian synthesis on sort of the government and civil society. It is the process that it sort of has the history and the origin of theism in East Asia and is an effect on political freedom, which we certainly have been translated into so many different forms and through so many different people here today. And so when I hear about this construct, it concerns me because there exists a religious experience, no doubt, but if you will, that is grounded in some manner. It by no means follows that the reality which grounds it should conform objectively with the ideal that believers have of it. We're coming back. This is going to be a fascinating discussion. I've studied this Dr. Utley, and I'm fascinated. She's on for the full hour with Dr. Ellis.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
For more information on The Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933. Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong-Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong-Williams.
So let me go back to you, Dr. Utley, because you're our featured guest today. What are some of the biggest misconceptions about references to God within rap music? Maybe we should go there.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions about God in rap music is that, just as we were discussing, there's one singular idea of God. So in the book, I talk about some rappers construct a God out there, that's out there in the universe, that's outside of humanity, that's bigger than humanity. And others rappers construct a God that's down here, that sort of walks the earth with humans and is intimately connected with our lived experiences. And so many rappers fall within that continuum between out there and down here. But the biggest misconception is that there's one God that fits everyone's needs.
Dr. Ellis?
Well, I respectfully disagree, because when I look at what God says in the Bible, I mean, He is out there. He is transcendent, you know.
He was always there.
That's right. He's always there. And then, of course, he becomes a human being in Jesus Christ, so He's down here. So the God of the Bible does fit both, because, I mean, He took on human flesh and lived among us and affirmed our humanity. A lot of the African-American experience, I mean, you know, as a matter of fact, Dr. Utley, I think I saw a video of you lecturing, and you really put out some really neat stuff about how he, how he grew up in a town that was synonymous to the hood today, you know, nothing good comes out of Nazareth, all those kind of things. So many aspects of our experience God affirmed in Jesus Christ. So the rappers may not realize all of this. I mean, I realize they're asking the right questions, they're seeking, and I commend them for what you described, Dr. Utley, in your book, for reaching out and doing all the rest of that. I really feel for that. I really feel that too. But at the same time, they may not realize it. It's a matter of perception, but the God of the Bible he fits the entire thing, the entire profile that I'm seeing here as you bring it out. So, you know, I think it's an amazing thing that in the midst of all of that dysfunctionality and broken relationships and all the rest of that, these young men and women are asking some of the right questions.
Dr. Utley, when did religion become such a part of the same urban culture that fosters rap music?
You know, I argue that religion and rap music have always grown up hand in hand, because both of them have a strong presence in the hood. So rap music has been part of the lived experience in urban spaces since the mid-1970s, and of course, religion has been too. But the first religious iteration that was strongest in rap music was actually Islam, because we had a lot of rappers like Ice Cube back in the day, starting with Nation of Islam, that were putting lots of Islamic beliefs into the music, also
that's
the
right.
5 percenters.
5 percenters, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Are linked to Islam, and so that's what we had first. And then with the emergence of prosperity gospel in the Christian communities, we used to see more of that, because prosperity gospel emerged at the same time as the bling era did in rap music. So the more you have, the more God loves you. Rappers were really down for that because they had lots of diamonds and cars at the time. And then around 9/11, a lot of the Muslim influences really faded out in rap music because it became linked to terrorism and the negative definitions of Islam.
Yeah, that was a great point you made, Dr. Utley. I hadn't thought about that. You know, as a matter of fact, it's interesting if you look at how Americans responded to Islam in the days right after 9/11. There was a huge increase in Americans getting interested, and then it tapered off and it went backwards. You know what I'm saying? So that I had never thought that 9/11 was the turning point, because I did notice that some of the early rappers were 5 percenters, and then you have a lot of groups like 116 Click and a whole bunch of others that have come forth who are outspokenly Christian and all that. And so their stuff is pretty provocative, you know.
Well, this is what confuses me then, Dr. Utley, based on what you and Dr. Ellis are saying now. That is, if religion is so prevalent within rap music, why is it not being emphasized as much today?
You know what, that's a really good question. I think some of that has to do with the market. I don't know that the rap industry is really pushing rappers to put religious themes in their music. I'm not sure they're convinced that it will sell well. Sometimes talking about religion is just too touchy, so they don't encourage their artists to do so. But when it happens, they also don't stop it. It's like, oh, okay, you want to talk about religion? I guess that's important to the people you talk about. We'll let it stay, but I'm not going to encourage you to do a religious song, per se. And then, it goes either way. When times get hard, sometimes you have people that become more religious and looking for answers. And on the flip side, you have people that become less religious and say, well, if there is a God, these bad things wouldn't be happening to me. So we're sort of in that moment right now where I think a lot of rappers are pulling away from religion and trying to find answers in more secular spaces.
Dr. Ellis?
Well, I think it ebbs and flows, One of the things that saddens me the most is that, what these rappers are saying, they're crying out, and they're saying, like I said, they're asking some of the right questions. And yet so many of our church leaders are just ignoring this. They're just totally ignoring this. I mean, it amazes me. Some of the answers that, it's not that, like, I got all the answers, but I know God has all the answers. But it's really interesting. Some of the questions and some of the issues they're grappling with, the Scripture very easily deals with. But, of course, we in the church are so busy preoccupied with our own private salvation, our own passport from hell to heaven, we don't even think about, actually bringing the good news or helping folks to come to grips with some of these questions. These are legitimate questions. And so if they leave and look for answers in secular realms and stuff, in a way I can't blame them. If we have been silent, then what else can they do?
Rappers definitely see a lot of hypocrisy in the church. I mean, even Lecrae, who's a Christian and is also a rapper, just released a mixtape called Church Clothes. That's a lot about the hypocrisy in church spaces and how it's sometimes more important to go outside of the church to find a relationship with God that works for you.
I know there's a reason why I was looking forward to today's broadcast. It's interesting, especially listening to the show today, it brings it home, and that is for religious believers, God makes himself known to his people through appearances, miracles, scripture, and his prophets and such like. According to the view, God communicates with humankind initially to make us aware of him, either through direct or indirect experience. However, and listening to Dr. Utley, she makes us realize that there are also those of other faiths and those of no faith that have no idea of God. So then, Dr. Utley, where does that concept come from?
There's some people that argue that there's a God sense that's in all of us. In part of the matter that we were created with, there's a little bit of God. Like there's a little bit of that good that's just innately part of all humans, and it's up to us to tap into it to realize our full potential. So there are some that, again, argue that God is just with us. It's just part of who you are. Like if you are human and one of God's creations, then there's a little bit of God in you. But there's another argument that suggests that God is everywhere. I mean, we have In God We Trust on our money. You cannot be an American and have never heard of the word God. And once you're introduced to the concept of God, it never goes away. So you spend the rest of your life either defining yourself in relationship to or in relationship against these ideas about God. So whether you believe it's innate or it's something that's just around you in your popular culture, in your political culture, in your educational culture, in your economic culture, in some way you're going to have to establish some sort of relationship between yourself and God, even if you don't have a codified relationship with religion or with a religious institution.
Dr. Ellis, how much did Karl Marx, who offered a view of religion that emerged from his central socialist philosophies, where he saw human history as a struggle really between the classes and rejected the existence of a transcendent morality. And so he believed that human beings were products of their society, and the economy was the most fundamental influence to society, specifically the struggle between the wealthy and the proletariat.
Well, of course, he's so famous for saying religion is the opiate of the people.
Right.
The last thing we need in the hood is another opiate, okay?
Amen.
We need the reality of God. I mean, for example, again, the Bible addresses all of this. Yes, God is transcendent. He is not even limited. He's not even limited by the universe. But at the same time, he walked among us. Also, at the same time, the Bible tells us very clearly that we are created in God's image. Now, of course, that image has been damaged by sin and all the rest of that, but the image is still there. I would recognize my car even if it was totaled in a car accident. You know what I'm saying? The image is there, and so therefore, since the image of God is there, that all of us have dignity and worth, and we owe all human beings respect, and so again, it's, I think, one of the reasons why we're not left to our own imaginations and our own speculations as to who God is. God is there. He's communicated historically in the Scripture, and he just communicates in all kinds of ways. And we don't have to go around probing in the dark. I mean, he has given us ample revelation. But again, it is a remarkable thing. It's a really demonstration of God's nearness that these kind of questions and these kind of issues are being grappled with. And I think these young men and women deserve answers,
Dr. Ebony A. Utley, Ph.D., is an expert in popular culture, race, and romantic relationships. Her critically acclaimed book, Rap and Religion, Understanding the Gangster's God, addresses many of these issues. Her academic writing has appeared in Black Women, Gender, and Families, Studies in Media Communication, Marriage and Family Review, Rhetoric, and Public Affairs. Her blogs have been cited by national and international news outlets, including Essence, Jezebel, Racial Religious, and Professor Utley earned a certificate in journalism and a BA in speech communication from Indiana University in Bloomington. And we'll be back. Don't go away.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933. Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Dr. Carl Ellis received his DPhil from Oxford Graduate School, theology from Westminster Theological Seminary, as well as his BA in economics from Hampton University. He is married to Karen and has privilege and pleasure of teaming up with her in their national and international work. You know, Dr. Utley, there's so much I want to ask you. You know, hip-hop, rap has a reputation from being misogynistic. And how can hip-hop claim to be a language of love with such misogynistic language?
because, again, our ideas of love are complicated, too.
Mine is not complicated, Dr. Utley. It's very understandable. Very simple, actually.
Our ideas about God get complicated.
I'm not complicated by God. I really understand all my life. That has never complicated me.
Yeah, but she's saying our ideas. Of course, you know, the Bible says we see through a glass darkly, you know. And,
yeah, let me address it. I'm not trying to cut her off. I want to hear what she has to say, but I am not confused. Okay. I know we're asking for the audience.
I know. And there are many of us that are not confused, but there are many of us that are confused because we think that life is supposed to be so much better than it is, and if God were out there, God would fix it.
Life is good. It's wonderful.
Well, it's not wonderful for
we got to
everyone.
remember too that the world as we know it is a fallen world. It's not as God created it. We messed it up, you know, by our disobedience. And of course, God is in the redeeming business, and He is working that out. Dr. Utley, let me ask you just a
before you ask her, in all fairness to her, Dr.
This is just a friendly question.
Oh no! Before you ask her, let her answer what we asked her.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dr. Utley.
All right, go ahead, Doc.
Okay.
Misogynistic music.
Misogynistic music. So our ideas of God and love are complicated.
That's
because for love in particular, because when people who are supposed to love us hurt us, then we start to get jaded about love.
Yep.
So when we get these misogynistic messages in hip-hop, we really oftentimes have a lot of grown men that are hurt little boys because someone who was supposed to love them failed to do so. And so now they're angry at women. They're angry at their baby mamas. Sometimes they're angry at their mothers, and they don't know where to put this information. So it comes out in these visceral reactions in the music. So most of the time when I hear something that's terribly misogynistic, I'm like, wow, that's a man that's in a lot of pain. That's not an excuse, but it's a context to sort of help us understand where it comes from. So if we want to fix the misogyny, we need to figure out what the pain is, try to get these men to acknowledge it so that they can start to heal and move on from it and start producing music that's more wholesome and loving and healing for the community.
Great point.
You had a friendly question.
Yeah, by the way, this is just a thing. I noticed you went to Indiana University.
Yes.
I'm a Hoosier myself. I grew up part of my life and good part of my life in Gary, and are you from Indianapolis, by the way?
I am. I'm from Naptown.
Naptown. I thought I recognized your accent.
Oh my goodness! I so don't have an accent.
Yeah, us in the Midwest say we don't have an accent, but anyway, that's great. That's great. Okay.
So let me get back to Dr. Utley. Even I'm pretty well known for driving the questions on this. What is it that we've talked about so far that we need to flesh out a little more that you want to come back to and address to make our audience aware of?
I really want to come back to these ideas about God. Like when people ask me, who is the gangster's God? I tell them that God is, and they should stop trying to fill in the blank. I mean, when Moses asked God who God is, God says, I am. And after having done this research, that's an excellent definition for me. I've just changed the verb to God is. And there isn't anything else that we need to put in the blank and force someone else to adhere to. Your God is whatever you need your God to be. Your God does for you whatever you need most for God to do. When Jesus saw that people were hungry, He fed them. He didn't try to sort of give them the good word and the gospel while they were still hungry. So if someone just needs a God to feed them or to find them a job, then let's just let them stay there with that kind of God. If someone else needs God to give them the love that they missed because they didn't have a solid family upbringing, well, let's just let them stay right there with that definition with God. If someone needs a God that's like a best friend that walks with them, like Jesus walks with Kanye in the milk version of Jesus Walks, and let's just let them have that God. God does what people need God to do. And any other definition, for me, any other broader or extreme transcendent definition just isn't as useful for a generation of people that have very immediate needs.
Well, how do rappers approach the crucifixion of Jesus?
Rappers love Jesus. Because Jesus
but why?
Because Jesus was persecuted in the same way that they feel persecuted.
Oh, Lord. They are not persecuted the way Jesus was persecuted, by the way.
Jesus was betrayed by one of his boys. Rappers get that.
Oh.
Someone close to you that you trust.
This is too much. This is too much.
Yeah. But
Jesus was under surveillance by the state.
Oh,
Many
Lord.
rappers feel like they're under police surveillance in their communities.
Armstrong, I don't think she's saying that.
Oh, no, I know what she's saying. I understand exactly what she's saying. They see Jesus as a homie.
Of course, they can identify with Jesus. That's the whole point of the incarnation, so we can know what God is like, and and be able to identify.
But is that a fair comparison? Is that a realistic comparison?
Of course.
Armstrong, it doesn't matter if it's fair or not. It matters that rappers find a way to relate to Jesus in that way.
Well, that's
if
what
they
the
couldn't get to
scripture
Jesus in
reveals.
any other way, let them have that pass.
Well, there's no story about God being persecuted, so can they relate to God?
You know what? Some rappers will choose Jesus over God for that reason.
Oh, see, there's my point, Dr. Ellis. That is the point exactly.
Well, see, I understand what Dr. Utley is saying in a sense that they see God this way, and it's okay to reach out from that point of view. I mean, look, the Bible even tells us that God, He meets all of our needs according to His riches and glory. You know what I'm saying? And so, yes, there are ways I can identify with Jesus because I went through some of the same things He went through. He affirms my humanity and my experience. But I know He's much more than that. I mean, I'm not limiting Him by my experience. That's the thing. He's not a construction of my imagination or my whatever. He is, as Dr. Ellie says, He is. He is.
But
you know.
But there's a deeper point that I think you're missing here.
Yeah.
It's not even about Jesus to them. It's about something that's very useful to them in their music and conveying a message. They don't really care about His walk and how He lived. They just care about that instance in His life.
No, I think that rappers resonate with many aspects of Jesus' life. They resonate with growing up poor. They resonate with not knowing, well, at least not having an everyday lived experience with their father.
See, you're making my point. What is convenient for them and what they're trying to convey.
But Armstrong, there are multiple aspects
Lord.
of the Jesus story that appeal to rappers for different reasons. I think
right.
if there's any religious icon or figure that speaks to a rapper experience, that would be Jesus, because Jesus encompasses so much of the human experience. That's why He's Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
But to use that to empower them would also to take it a step further, at least in your music, to try to become an advocate of not only how He died, but more, just as important, how He lived.
Rappers are all over how Jesus lived. This idea of standing on the street corner, like spitting truth to anyone who listens, that's what Jesus did.
No, it's a certain moral code. It's a certain restraining your behavior. It's a certain way you live, removing your ego and becoming a servant. There's something more to this.
Of course, there's more to it, but I think if I understand Dr. Utley, she's saying, while there is more to it. I mean, what they are doing, there is something to that. I mean, it's just like a child. When my kids were just small, and I would teach them about God and everything. At first, they thought that God was just like kind of a glorified Santa Claus. But as they grew in their knowledge and understanding, they came to understand who God was in a much fuller way. But they had these inquisitive, inquiries about God. Questions like questions that had crazy assumptions, but yet so I was able to gently help them and understand that some of their assumptions were wrong. But the point is, they grew in their knowledge, and I think some of the people in the hip hop community who are doing this, at least they're making these initial steps. Now, some of them may have ulterior motives, but some of them might be true seekers, and so we have to take it seriously.
But how do young people get the real Jesus, or the meaning of what they're talking about in their rap music, Dr. Utley, if then on the other extreme they are killing, use profane language, destruction, beefing with each other? I mean, which one do they decide to embrace?
I don't know that it's that simple. I mean,
it's not that simple.
Jesus' crucifixion was a gruesome, violent scenario.
Absolutely.
Death, murder, all of that encompasses rap music are still part of the Jesus story. And as Dr. Ellis says, rappers are still trying to figure out like what's truth and what's myth and what's not. And if the church is failing to reach them, then they're coming to Jesus through these limited understandings, perhaps these less mature understandings. But there are aspects of Jesus that you don't have to be a Christian to understand. Like, that dude was important, and people hated on him, and he suffered for it. Immediately, rappers understand that. Rappers of any age, children who grew up in the hood, understand that. And for me, that's the power of the Jesus story, that you don't have to know anything about Jesus except a handful of details, and you can say, oh, I understand that experience. So even the violent aspects of the Jesus experience are aspects that rappers are familiar with and appropriate.
Oh, boy.
Okay, Armstrong. Okay, let me throw something out that might help a little bit. When you read, back in the Old Testament, there were two kinds of prophets. There were ecstatic prophets who needed music to prophesy. Guys like Elijah, Elisha, and guys like that. Okay. Then later on, there emerged a new kind of prophets. They call them the classical prophets. I call them the poetic prophets. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel. If you read what they had to say and how they communicated to the wayward people of God, they used some very funky analogies. Very funky analogies.
Hold that point. Dr. Ellis,
right.
Hold that point.
All right.
Utley, we're coming back with our final segment. Don't go away.
Hello, my name is Ron Moulton. I'm running as a Republican for the City Council in the nation's capital, a political arena dominated by the Democratic Party. I'm seeking office in Ward 7, overwhelmed by unemployment and poverty. For the first time in decades, we have an opportunity to be elected as the people that need the representation the most are now responding to the principles that will uplift them. For more information about my values and to donate, please visit www.ronmoulton.com.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com. To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong-Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
You know, my spirit is leading me to do something very different in this last segment. Dr. Ellis, I want you to finish your point, and then I want you and Dr. Utley to debate and discuss, and because I see you guys share a lot. You have much in common. I think that's important. So I'm going to give you guys a chance to dialogue with each other, to raise questions and debate back and forth, but in a loving, respectful, Jesus example way. Go ahead, finish, Dr. Ellis.
Okay. As I was saying about what I call the poetic prophets, what most scholars call the classical prophets, these guys use very funky analogies and parables and stuff like that, comparing Israel's wayward ways with prostitution and all that kind of thing. Very, very, very raw kind of stuff. And if you hear if you read their sayings in the Hebrew and all the rest of that, and you listen to it, it has a kind of a cadence very similar to rap music. Now, I'm not saying these prophets are just rappers, but I'm just saying that it had that kind of cadence to it. There was a rawness to their speaking the truth, and I think in a lot of ways. And again, I'm not endorsing the misogynistic stuff and all the rest of that, but what I'm hearing is a kind of a rawness of reality. They're revealing the ugliness that they see, and sin and all the rest of it is ugly, and we need to come to grips with that. And I just think that there is something. It's a great starting point when people begin to realize that things are not the way they should be, and they begin to wonder what should be, and that's where God begins to tell us, the fact that He didn't create it this way. It is this way because of our doing, and He has provided the way to bring everything back, to renew, and to redeem everything.
Dr. Utley, before you guys talk among yourselves, please share with our audience what you think they can get and why they should go and get this book, Rap and Religion. Because I'm learning much here today. There's so much they can learn.
Yes, audiences should go out and get Rap and Religion, Understanding the Gangsta's God, because it will expand your ideas about rap music, and it'll expand your conceptions about God. We hear a lot of talk today about how hip-hop is dead and rap music is not what it used to be. Certainly, rap music has changed considerably from when it first came out, but there's still a lot of good stuff in the music, even the music that comes on the radio. So I'm really encouraging audiences to rethink their understandings of what counts as good rap music, and also to rethink their understandings of God, just like we've had in this conversation today about who God is and what God does and for what reasons.
I will let you ask the first question to Dr. Ellis, Dr. Utley.
Okay, Dr. Ellis, one thing that we haven't talked about so far is the relationship between women and religion and women and God, and I just wanted to know, we've been sort of leaning toward a more masculine perspective, how you felt about women's roles in Christianity.
Well, my stance has always been this, that women should do things that whatever God gives women to do, they should do, just like whatever God gives men to do, they should do. Now, depending on how we order that depends on the tradition you're in and all the rest of that. But certainly, throughout biblical history, God has used women in a very, very remarkable way, as He has used men. I don't have a problem, with women with God using women in very significant ways. I know He's used women in my life in very significant ways. So I'm just very. Of course, I might have my ideas in terms of how to order that. Like if I'm a pastor, I would, have to order it in certain ways. But my stand has always been that if God gives women to do a certain thing, then they should do it. Who am I to deny them the right to exercise the gift that God has given them?
But you will not deny that man is the head of the household if he's the man that God talked about.
Oh, in the family structure, of course. Yes, but that doesn't mean that he's a dictator or anything like that.
I did say the man God spoke of.
Oh yeah.
Of course. Now,
wives are partners. You know what I'm saying? Adam. There was Adam and Eve, and yet and still, I'm sure they both participated in the Great Commission that God gave them. But of course, then Adam was the head of the house. But that doesn't mean that he did not listen and take into consideration what she said. Now, of course, things went wrong at the beginning, but then on the other hand, a lot of people blame women for eating the fruit and all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing. The devil had to use his best technique to get her to eat, but she just gives it to him and he ate. So, I think the man came out a little bit not looking too good in that situation. But,
your question about Dr. Utley, Dr. Ellis.
Well, like I said, I find your ideas very fascinating. I've been saying some very similar things over the years about what we're hearing in pop culture and everything. I think the thing with you, I like your analysis in a lot of ways, but I think where we would disagree is, you would tend to see that God is a projection of some kind of our imagination or whatever. But I am saying that God is actually there, and He has revealed Himself. He has not been silent. But the analysis is good. One of the things, though, I did notice in your analysis of the whole situation in the hood.
Ask her a question, Dr. Ellis.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, let me ask you this. The whole situation in the hood as you run down, the deindustrialization and the lack of jobs and all the rest of that, the deterioration of life in the hood, what role does culture play in that? I noticed you did an economic analysis, but do you see any role that culture would play in all of that?
Do you mean in terms of religious culture, or just
No. Just as you talk about how things went downhill in the hood, the factories moving out and the competition from foreign workers and all that kind of stuff, and you give a good analysis of the deterioration of the hood based on economics. But does culture, or how does culture play? Does culture play a role in all of that?
I know my answer will seem really myopic to some, but I honestly believe that the economics shape the culture.
Okay.
The huge
all right.
economic terms and the lack of money circulating in the hood is what changed the culture.
Okay. So you would see it as ultimately economics based.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Dr. Utley, you can ask questions of me. You can ask another question of Dr. Ellis if you like to. But here's what I want to bring up, because I asked this, but I want to ask it differently. And that is, how is religion actually not just only portrayed in music today, how is it digested by those listening to it? And do you think it is less common today than 20 to 25 years ago when the rap movement started?
I'm going to start with your middle question. There's a chapter in the book called The Rap on Rap and Religion, where I survey rap fans about their relationship to rap and religion and how they interpret rappers' use of religion. And it was really fascinating. It's probably my favorite chapter in the book because I expected the students to highlight hypocrisy. And instead, when they saw religious themes in rap music, they were like, well, this isn't hypocritical because my life is complicated and rappers' lives are complicated, and I'm glad that they will admit to it. So when they saw religious themes in the music, they just saw individuals who were struggling in life and looking for answers. So I think that's the main purpose that religious themes serve, particularly in rap music. It's just like, well, I'm looking for answers. Religion has lots of answers. Let me use some of these religious concepts and see if I can figure it out. But another component of religion in rap music is that it's familiar. It has cultural cachet. So if you want mama and them back home to know that you're not totally lost, you throw in some religious themes. They're like, oh, baby's going to be okay. He's still talking about going to church. And so it is convenient in that sense. And then part of it in the book, I talk about like a religious habitus. Like religion is everywhere. Like our politicians talk about religion. Our pop culture talks about religion outside of rap music. Our churches, of course, talk about religion. So it's just something that happens sometimes. Even if you've never been to church, if there's a church on the corner at the end of your block, then you're familiar with what religion sounds like.
Yep.
You're familiar with how religious people dress.
Yeah.
And so those concepts appear in your music because they're cultural concepts that you're familiar with.
Non-oscillation, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where does someone go and get a copy of your book? And also, can they go online and learn more?
Yes, you can go to rapandreligion.com to learn more about the book, to read some of my blogs, and also to purchase the book. The book is also available for purchase at Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
I would like to know how I can get an autographed copy.
I'm actually issuing Kindlegraphs, so if you buy a Kindle version, I can send you an e-autograph of the book. Otherwise, there will be a Los Angeles release party for Rap and Religion on July 15th.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. What is it about the conversation today and listening to our exchange that you had not thought about before you're going to think about even deeper?
You know, I'm going to think even more about the transcendent concepts of God that both of you definitely pushed and are very, very solid on. My perspective is so different, but I'm going to have to think even more about how to negotiate conversations between the transcendent God and sort of my definitions of a God down here.
She said negotiate, Dr. Ellis.
I did.
Well, that's a good word. I mean, the transcendent God isn't just transcendent. He is down here, too. God is with us. Emmanuel, God with us. I mean, that's the whole story of one of the good news. That's one of the aspects of the good news of the Scripture. So the God of the Bible, fits the bill. I mean, he really does meet all the needs and all the longings that these rappers cry out about. The only problem is that not enough of us have been in there communicating these truths, these wonderful truths, to some of our brothers and sisters.
Listen, I cannot thank you both enough for such a provocative discussion. I want to thank Dr. Ebony Utley for writing her book, Rap and Religion. I encourage everyone to go out and buy it. I encourage you to buy it. It's a must-read. And Dr. Ellis, as always, we all understand why you had to be a part of the broadcast today. That goes without saying.
Well, I'm honored to be here.
Thank you both. All the best.
Okay.
Thank you.
Goodbye, Dr. Utley.
Bye.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Hello, my name is Ron Moulton. I'm running as a Republican for the City Council in the nation's capital, a political arena dominated by the Democratic Party. I'm seeking office in Ward 7, overwhelmed by unemployment and poverty. For the first time in decades, we have an opportunity to be elected as the people that need the representation the most are now responding to the principles that will uplift them. For more information about my values and to donate, please visit www.ronmoulton.com.
For more information on The Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org. Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
The sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get the Henrys at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856. Get soul food. Henry is so